Do you believe in miracles? Imagine facing an irreversible medical diagnosis, certain that nothing more can be done, and then, suddenly, everything changes. No scientific explanation, no logic, just faith. In this video, you will hear real stories of people who faced the impossible and were healed by a divine force that defies human explanation. These are accounts that move, inspire, and even make skeptics reconsider their beliefs. Saint Padre Pio, widely known as a man of miracles, continues to touch lives even after his death. But how is this possible? And what makes his intercessions so powerful? Stay with me until the end of this video to discover how these stories can directly impact your life, and how you too can be blessed. To understand the miracles attributed to Saint Padre Pio, we first need to know the story of this extraordinary man. Born in 1887 in the small town of Pietrelcina, Italy, Francesco Forgione, later known as Padre Pio, grew up in a humble and deeply religious household. From a young age, he displayed an unusual faith and a spiritual connection that drew attention from those around him. At the age of 15, he joined the Capuchin order and dedicated his life to prayer, penance, and serving others. However, it was during his priesthood that signs of something supernatural began to emerge. Padre Pio received the stigmata, visible wounds on his hands, feet, and side, resembling those of Christ on the cross. These signs, which he carried for 50 years, made him a sacred figure for thousands. Many traveled long distances to see him, seeking spiritual guidance, confessions, and, above all, healing. But the miracles were not limited to those who met him in person. Reports began to surface of healings and divine interventions attributed to him, even from afar. He became seen as a direct channel between heaven and those in need. It was this reputation for holiness and miracles that transformed Padre Pio into one of the most venerated saints of the Catholic Church. And the impact of his life continues today through remarkable stories like the ones you are about to hear. Imagine the anguish of parents receiving devastating news. Their young child, diagnosed with an incurable disease, has only a short time to live. This is exactly what happened to Matteo's family, an Italian boy whose story still moves thousands of people. Given no hope by doctors, Matteo's parents saw science exhaust all possibilities. With no alternatives left, they turned to their only remaining hope, faith. They heard about Saint Padre Pio and the miraculous healings attributed to him. Desperate, they traveled to the monastery where Padre Pio lived. Upon arrival, they were welcomed with compassion by the saint. He placed his hands on the child, closed his eyes, and offered a deep, silent prayer. At that moment, the parents felt something different, as if an inexplicable peace had filled the room. When they returned home, something extraordinary happened. Matteo began to show signs of improvement. The once weak and frail boy started eating and playing again. The doctors, in disbelief, ran new tests. To everyone's surprise, the disease had vanished. There was no scientific explanation for Matteo's recovery. This miracle was documented and quickly spread, drawing even more people to the monastery in search of healing. Matteo grew up healthy and became a living symbol of the power of faith and Saint Padre Pio's divine intercession. But this is just one of many stories that show how faith can work miracles. And what happened to Matteo wasn't an isolated case. Get ready to hear another touching testimony, this time about a man who was on the brink of death and saw his life transformed against all odds. Carlos was only 42 years old when he received a life-changing diagnosis, advanced stage cancer. The doctors were straightforward. There was no more treatment available. All that was left was to wait for the worst. Desperate and unsure where to turn, he decided to place his last hope in faith. That's when a friend gave him a medal of Saint Padre Pio and suggested he start a novena, asking for the saint's intercession. Physically weak but filled with faith, Carlos began his prayers. Every day, he held the medal and prayed for a miracle. On the third night of prayer, something unexpected happened. Carlos woke up feeling an inexplicable energy coursing through his body. It was as if an invisible hand touched him. He described the sensation as a comforting warmth surrounding his chest. The following day, Carlos felt stronger and, at his family's insistence, returned to the hospital for new tests. What happened next left the doctors astonished. The tumors that had spread throughout his body had simply disappeared. There were no longer any signs of the disease. Carlos attributed his healing to the divine power manifested through Saint Padre Pio. His story quickly spread and became yet another living proof of the saint's ability to intercede for those who trust in divine grace. Today, Carlos lives to share his story and inspire others to believe that even in the most desperate situations, faith can open doors to the impossible. Carlos was only 42 years old when he received the diagnosis that changed his life: advanced stage cancer. The doctors were clear. There was no more treatment available. All he could do was wait for the inevitable. Desperate and unsure where to turn, he decided to place his last hope in faith. That's when a friend gave him a medal of Saint Padre Pio and suggested he begin a novena, asking for the saint's intercession. Physically weak but with his heart full of faith, Carlos started praying. Every day, he held the medal and pleaded for a miracle. On the third night of prayer, something unexpected happened. Carlos woke up feeling an inexplicable energy flowing through his body. It felt as if an invisible hand had touched him. He described the sensation as a comforting warmth surrounding his chest. The following day, Carlos felt stronger and, at his family's insistence, returned to the hospital for new tests. What happened next left the doctors astonished. The tumors that had spread throughout his body had simply disappeared. There were no longer any signs of the disease. Carlos attributed his healing to the divine power manifested through Saint Padre Pio. His story quickly spread and became yet another living proof of the saint's ability to intercede for those who trust in divine grace. Today, Carlos lives to share his story and inspire others to believe that even in the most desperate situations, faith can open doors to the impossible. But what makes these healings even more astonishing is that, often, they happen even from a distance. Now, let's explore stories of miracles that defied logic and broke physical barriers. The miracles attributed to Saint Padre Pio were not limited to those who could meet him in person. Many witnessed incredible healings simply by touching objects blessed by him or by praying fervently, even from thousands of miles away. A remarkable example is the story of Anna Maria, a woman who had suffered for years from severe joint pain. Doctors tried various treatments, but none brought relief. In despair, she received a handkerchief from a friend that had been touched by Padre Pio years earlier. That night, Anna Maria knelt, held the handkerchief, and prayed, asking for the saint's intercession. When she woke up the next morning, she noticed something different. For the first time in years, she was able to get out of bed without pain. The doctors were amazed, as they found no explanation for her sudden recovery. Another account is that of Miguel, a young man who had been paralyzed after an accident. His mother began a novena asking for Padre Pio's help, even though she had never been to Italy. On the 9th day, Miguel felt a tingling sensation in his legs and, against all odds, was able to move his feet. Within a few weeks, he was walking again. These stories prove that Saint Padre Pio's intercession knows no geographic barriers. Faith and prayer remain powerful instruments that connect believers to the divine, even from a distance. And now you may be wondering, how can I connect with this grace and seek my own miracle or blessing? In the next chapter, I'll show you how to receive miracles even today. Faced with so many moving accounts, the inevitable question arises: how can we open ourselves to receive a miracle in our lives? The answer begins with one essential ingredient: unshakable faith. Saint Padre Pio taught that prayer is the key that opens the doors of heaven. He often said, "Pray, have faith, and do not worry. God will take care of the rest." This message continues to guide believers in search of healing and transformation. If you wish to receive a blessing, the first step is to commit to daily prayer. One of the most powerful ways to achieve this is through the novena to Saint Padre Pio. For 9 consecutive days, pray with clear intention, asking for his intercession in your life. Another recommended practice is to keep a blessed object, such as a rosary or medal, while praying. Many miracle stories have occurred when people held items connected to Padre Pio or touched images and relics with devotion. Additionally, visiting a church or chapel dedicated to him, even virtually through live broadcasts, can strengthen your spiritual connection. Lighting a candle and dedicating a few minutes daily to meditation also helps create an environment where faith can grow. But remember, miracles don't always happen instantly. Sometimes they come in the form of renewed strength to face challenges or unexpected answers to long-standing problems. The key is to keep believing, even when circumstances seem unfavorable. And miracles aren't limited to physical healing. In the next chapter, you'll see how Saint Padre Pio also brought healing to the deepest wounds of the soul. Not all miracles can be seen or touched. Some happen deep within the heart and soul, bringing peace, forgiveness, and inner renewal. And that's exactly what happened to Helena, a woman tormented for years by depression and anguish. After losing her husband, Helena fell into a state of despair. Nothing seemed to comfort her, and the feeling of emptiness grew stronger every day. A friend gave her a book about the life of Saint Padre Pio and encouraged her to pray for strength to move forward. With tears in her eyes, she began a novena, pleading for help. On the 7th day, something unexpected happened. Helena woke up feeling a deep peace, as if a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulders. For the first time in months, she managed to smile. From that moment on, her life changed. She found purpose in helping others and attributed her emotional recovery to Padre Pio's intercession. Another remarkable case is Roberto, a man trapped in alcohol addiction for over a decade. After watching a documentary about the saint, he decided to seek spiritual help. He began attending Mass and praying daily for deliverance. Within a few weeks, Roberto felt his cravings fade away. The need for alcohol was replaced by a desire to rebuild his life. Today, he shares his journey as proof of faith's transformative power. These stories show that Saint Padre Pio's miracles are not limited to physical healing. They reach the heart, bringing restoration to emotional and spiritual wounds. And these emotional transformations remind us of something fundamental: unshakable faith is the key to opening the doors of the impossible. In the next chapter, we will explore the power of this faith. Faith was always the central pillar in Saint Padre Pio's life. He believed that true faith not only moved mountains but also opened doors to miracles that defy all human logic. And this power manifests extraordinarily in the lives of those who believe without hesitation. An inspiring example is Laura, a woman facing a severe infertility diagnosis. After several failed attempts and costly treatments, she heard about the miracles attributed to Padre Pio. Through tears, she decided to surrender her dream to God and began a novena dedicated to the saint. During her prayers, Laura felt her faith grow. She truly believed that nothing was impossible for God. Months later, against all medical expectations, Laura became pregnant. Today, she calls her child a gift from Padre Pio and shares her story to strengthen others' faith. This experience teaches us that faith isn't just about believing in miracles, but also about trusting God's timing and plans. Padre Pio always said, "Prayer is the best weapon we have. It is the key to God's heart." Unshakable faith means continuing to pray even when answers seem distant. It means keeping hope alive and knowing that God works in ways we cannot always comprehend. And if you still need proof of this power, get ready to hear the most astonishing testimony of this video, a story that continues to touch hearts around the world. Among so many remarkable accounts, one testimony stands out and continues to impact people worldwide. It is the story of Giovanni, a man who was declared clinically dead after a severe car accident. At the hospital, doctors had already called the family to say their goodbyes. Giovanni showed no vital signs, and the machines indicated no brain activity. However, his mother, a devoted follower of Saint Padre Pio, refused to accept the final diagnosis. With a rosary in her hands, she began to pray desperately, asking for the saint's intercession. She believed that even in the face of the impossible, God could act. For hours, she prayed non-stop beside her son, holding his hand and begging Padre Pio to bring him back. Suddenly, something unbelievable happened. The monitors began to register a heartbeat. The doctors rushed to assess the situation and were stunned. Giovanni was alive. More than that, he showed no signs of brain damage, despite the time he had gone without oxygen. When Giovanni woke up, he described having a vision. He saw a man in a brown robe with hands marked by wounds, who said to him, "Rise, for God is not finished with his work in your life." This experience was widely reported and continues to be studied by experts, given the lack of any medical explanation for his recovery. Today, Giovanni dedicates his life to testifying about the miracle he experienced and strengthening the faith of others. Stories like this remind us that, even in the most desperate situations, faith can open paths where human logic sees only the end. And after hearing so many powerful accounts, you may be asking yourself, could I also be blessed? Now, let's explore how to open your heart to receive a miracle in your life today. After so many emotional stories, it's impossible not to wonder, could I also be blessed by a miracle? The answer is clear, yes, you can. And it all begins with a step of faith. Saint Padre Pio always said that miracles happen where there is sincere prayer and trust in God. The first step is to open your heart and believe that nothing is beyond the reach of divine power. No matter what you are facing, an illness, financial struggles, or emotional pain, the key is to surrender your worries to God and ask for Padre Pio's intercession with genuine faith. Many devotees start with a novena, dedicating 9 days to prayer with devotion. During this time, they present their intentions to God and remain attentive to signs. Some miracles happen immediately. Others arrive unexpectedly, bringing solutions or changes that once seemed impossible. But beyond prayer, it's important to act in faith. Light a candle, visit a church, or create a prayer space at home. Keep blessed objects, such as rosaries and medals, and use them as symbols of your spiritual commitment. Above all, remember Padre Pio's words, prayer works miracles because it touches the heart of God. Never underestimate the power of your faith. The stories you heard today are not just accounts from the past. They are living reminders that miracles still happen and can reach anyone willing to open their heart and trust in divine grace. Whether through physical healings, emotional freedom, or spiritual transformations, Saint Padre Pio continues to be a powerful instrument of God, touching lives and restoring hope. Now, I want to extend a special invitation to you. If you believe in the power of prayer and wish to receive a blessing in your life, leave your prayer request in the comments below. Let's create a chain of faith and intercession so that more miracles can happen. Also, if you felt touched by these stories, share this video with friends and family who may also need a divine sign. You can be the channel to bring faith and hope to those who need it most. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving inspiring content like this. Together, we can strengthen our faith and witness even more miracles. Never underestimate the power of prayer. Your miracle may be closer than you think.